This is Carlin on 98.7 ESPN.
Greg Williams was trying to get fired. Get out of town, jackass. 800-919-3776. 800-919-ESPN. It is Carlin on 98.7 ESPN. By all means, join us on the lines. We will get to the calls very shortly. We will also hit him up on Twitter at Chris Carlin. By all means, be on over there. I don't know if there's any other way to potentially describe it other than disgraceful. Completely and utterly disgraceful. Look, we can argue all you want about thank God the Jets lost. They're still going to get the number one pick, hopefully. They keep losing. Greg Williams did us a favor in the long haul. This isn't about any of that. In my mind, there is no question that Greg Williams saw the writing on the wall around here, understands exactly what was going to happen, understands that he wasn't going to get a job, and quit on his team. How? By calling a zero blitz, something that, according to Next Gen Stats, has not been called in nearly 15 years in that situation. Greg Williams has shown himself to be a man of zero integrity, and yesterday proved it because he quit on his players, he quit on the organization paying him, and that was no question, exactly what he wanted when he got called into the office this morning. You know, when you understand what's going to happen, when you know you're getting fired, a lot of times you just want to get it over with. And why not go collect some money and go on vacation in the meantime and get paid for that? I absolutely believe that's what happened. If you want to believe for a second that somehow the Jets wanted to lose so badly that they told Greg Williams, hey, do what you can here. Joe Douglas whispered in his ear, maybe call a couple of plays that might help us out here. Maybe he's trying to do everything he can to help them to lose? No. Why did they fire him? If that was the case. You think if you fire him, he's going to keep his big trap shut? That was a case of I will take my money and I will go home. That is about coaching integrity, and if there's one thing we have never seen from Greg Williams, it's integrity. From Bountygate to calling out offenses to creating divisiveness among his teams to pissing off everybody in his way, taking shots at former players, Greg Williams has shown himself to be nothing but an arrogant jerk. And when people show you what they are over the course of time, believe them. Believe them. That was a complete and utter lack of respect for the game, for the people paying you, for the players that you are getting to play for you. The fact that you would call that, I mean, even you are not that arrogant and stupid. Even you're not. You know, at first yesterday, I thought he's like the Roy Tin Cup McAvoy of defensive coordinators, except a lot less likable than Roy McAvoy. Not likable at all, in fact. I watch that, and I'm just disgusted. Disgusted with what he did. I mean, you're going to call an all-out blitz when 2 plays earlier? Your own zone with a 4-man rush couldn't allow guys to get behind him. You're going to call an all-out blitz when you have a rookie, undrafted free agent corner going up against the fastest man in the league. You are not that dumb. You don't get to be a coach in the league for as long as you have by being that dumb. You don't. That was get me the hell out of here. Pack it in. I'll show up for work tomorrow and hopefully you'll send me home, and that's exactly what happened. That was his plan, and I'll worry about the next job. Problem with that, Greg, is Anybody that's paying attention isn't going to hire you and shouldn't hire you. That was an utter disgrace what you did. You know, it's amazing. Greg Williams has always gone out of his way to make sure everybody knows that he is the smartest coach on the field. At least he believes he is. The people that think they are the smartest people in the room and have to tell you they're not. The ones who know they're the smartest people in the room don't tell you they are, and they sit back and they listen and they gain knowledge. They're not arrogant like that. How else can you explain it? How else can you explain making a call like that? Trying to get fired. I've seen people do it. I've seen people plant stories in a newspaper about their replacement and go into their boss and say, hey, what's this all about? So they could get fired and get paid for the next several months. And in Williams' case, I don't know if he's got a contract through next year, but he's going to get paid for a while. And now he gets a paid vacation. I've seen that happen before. It's brilliant in some ways, if that's what you're trying to do. But the grand scheme, it was pretty dumb. Because anybody who's paying attention is never going to hire you as a defensive coordinator again unless his name is Jerry Jones, unless his name is Daniel Snyder, unless his name is Mark Davis. It's not going to happen. Just go away and retire, you complete and utter disgrace to the profession. That's what it was. An absolute abomination, an insult to anybody who's ever tried to win football games, an insult to any true competitor on the football field. In every single way. Folks, we all could joke about wanting the Jets to lose and they should build a statue to Greg Williams and he actually earned his money yesterday. That's all fine. You can joke about that if you want. What I know is those guys on the field are the ones who are busting their asses trying to win a football game. And their leader purposely did them in yesterday because he wanted out. That's exactly what happened. 800-919-3776, 800-919-ESPN. Just go away. I felt bad for Adam Gase yesterday. I felt bad for him. Because by the time he heard the words cover zero in his earpiece, the ball had been snapped. Imagine that. Imagine that being the case. The ball had been snapped by the time he heard cover zero. He didn't even have a chance. Wow. Just unreal. Arrogance on the highest level. Go sit on the beach and never show your face around the game again. If you had any respect for yourself or for the NFL, that's exactly what you'd do. 811. Calls next. Later in the hour, Buster Olney on the beginning of the winter meetings, the very latest when it comes to DJ LeMahieu and the Yankees, when it comes to the Mets and what they're going to spend, the universal DH, and if Zach Wheeler is actually on the trading block. We'll discuss it all with Buster in just a little bit. Right now, it's about you and the calls at the open lines at 800-919-3776 and on Twitter at Chris Carlin. 811.
It's the New Jersey.
You are down.
Vision Carolers.
Solid open, man.
It was disgraceful.
I felt that. That came from your heart. You were just disappointed at everything.
Listen, it's one of those things. And by the way, thanks. Good to see everybody on the stream.
Over 72 million in cash prizes for short, tall, friends of all sizes.
It was a complete and utter disgrace.
lottery ticket. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem.
The Raiders are so bipolar too.
Advice about gifting lottery tickets to children.
Hey, Gregory, did you actually place a bet on the Giants to win the Super Bowl? I did. $25. Why not right now? It's called value. They're plus 7,000. That's 70 to 1. Why not? Greg Williams will be having a stress-free Christmas. Smart man. Nice, Steve. Finn, it is not a full Adidas tracksuit. I'm not Reverend Run. Matt Wilson, I'm going to the bank. Greg Williams not going to be coaching anytime soon.
The 2020 New York Jets
I feel like I'm the most dominant tackle in this draft.
are committed.
Guys that are passionate about ball, guys that are highly competitive, guys that are smart.
All season long.
Cover your brother today!
Watch One Jets Drive. The Emmy Award-winning docuseries presented by JetBlue. See it on Facebook, YouTube, and nyjets.com.
This is Jesse's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
As a nurse, not making it to work was not an option. But driving through the snow with my wiper blades struggling, I just didn't feel safe. So I pulled into O'Reilly Auto Parts, and before I knew it, an employee was offering to install the wiper blades on my car. I got to stay out of the snow for a moment, and I still made it to work on time.
It's your apartment speaking, and I need some favors. When you're singing in the shower, just try going up a key. You're trying to be an alto when really you're a soprano. Oh, and if you could bundle your renters and car insurance with Geico,
You might want to go to caller 1.
and we could save money.
Okay.
And then when you read your murder mysteries at night, could you read out loud? But skip the murder parts because I get
All right,
scared.
guys.
Geico. For bundling made easy, go to geico.com today.
Dear, it's 1908. Don't you think we should get electricity?
And stop using candles to
Why
see
is
if
Kurt
It's just
Schilling
electricity lights up the room fast.
Alex Smith's sock was
Oh,
bleeding.
yeah.
Dear-
I saw that.
Yeah.
The wall.
I didn't see the play because I was in the other room, and apparently not all. I thought all the TVs were synced, but I couldn't even see that game over there. So
Cure and nationwide. Switch to
right now, I do. It's tied 17-17. I see that.
may not be
I'm
in your area.
watching.
See att.com for
That's not good.
details.
It's embarrassing if the Steelers lose to this team.
Your job, your
Not
way.
good.
That means getting what you need fast. That's why AutoZone
I don't know if his sock is still bleeding.
You can order online and pick it up today at more than 5,800 AutoZone.
That's why he's trending.
Or if your job can wait, AutoZone offers free next day
All right, coming back in 15.
bucks.
Okay.
Free next day delivery is available on over 100,000 parts, including ones for jobs like replacing your brake pads and rotors or installing new wipers. Visit AutoZone.com today to start your job fast. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
Carlin, 98.7 ESPN, 800-919-3776. 800-919 ESPN. I will get to some tweets here shortly as well. Let us hit the phones. Kevin in Island Park is going to start us off tonight. Kevin, what's going on, bud?
Listen, first of all, I want to say I respect you, and what I want to say is nothing personal.
Okay.
But what's your football team, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm a Steeler fan, believe it or not.
A Steeler fan. Okay, so you've been successful for God knows how long.
That has nothing to do with this.
If you just let me get this off my chest, sir, and I'm going to say this with full respect. This is like a toddler taking a medicine. The Jets fans are taking our medicine right now. Let us live, man. Let us get one quarterback, one thing. Let's get a reset.
I want you to lose the games. I want you to get the number one pick. I want you to get Trevor Lawrence. That has nothing to do with what Greg Williams did yesterday, which was a complete and utter disgrace to the game, and that's why he got fired today. If he was trying to lose the game and do it on purpose, he would not have gotten fired.
Listen, great. It's genius. I want to go
He's
contribute
genius.
to a charity. I'm getting the number one pick. I'm not going through this for nothing, Chris.
Kevin, I understand that. I understand that. But that's not how you do it. That's not how you do it. I'm sorry. I get it. You're going through a ton of pain. I want you to lose these games. I do. But there's a difference.
Then what are you talking about?
Because there's a difference, you dope. There's a difference, Kevin, and I do respect you too, even though I called you a dope. There's a difference between losing games and positioning yourself right and then out and out trying to get yourself fired, because that's what he did yesterday. He was trying to get out. What he was doing yesterday had nothing to do with you getting the number one pick. He wanted an early vacation. That's what he wanted.
And let him have it. I want the number one pick. Can I get one? Can I have something, Chris?
Kevin,
Can you let me live?
Are you just going to not listen to the point? It's the integrity of a coach that he owes to his players who bust their ass for him. That's what it's about. Listen, the number one, you're going to get the number one pick.
If you have any integrity or belief in this coaching staff, you are lost, Chris.
I'm sorry. There's something about a coach having integrity in himself. Thanks for the call, even though I kind of mean it. I think more than anything, if you're going to let him off the hook for that, and you're going to think that he's some big hero for getting you the number one pick, you're completely lost in the game. I get it. I get it. You want so desperately to get that quarterback. I want that for you. I want it for you. I don't want it that way. That guy was trying to get out of town as quickly as possible because he knew he was getting fired. He knew he wasn't getting a shot at being a head coach, and he's an arrogant jerk. That's why. Mark in Woodbridge is next. Mark, what's going on?
What's going on, Chris?
Mark, I don't know what you say to players who are out there busting their asses for you, and you're coaching them, and you pull that garbage.
Well, yeah, that was amazing. I didn't understand that for the life of me either. But you know what I want to say tonight, Chris, about the Jets is I just feel in my heart that it's getting to a point where when I hear all this talk about them trying to lose to get to get Trevor Lawrence and stuff, that kind of it kind of reeks a little bit of the 1919 Chicago White Sox there when they, you got to go out there and you got to, put forth full effort. I'll tell you, when I was a kid, Chris, I remember the Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier fight, the third fight. And Joe Frazier, he busted his butt and both of his eyes were closed. He was fighting one of the best heavyweights who ever lived. And he busted his butt, and he wanted to go out for that 15th round. And Eddie Futch said, man, I just can't let you do it. And he was mad. That's the kind of competition. If the Jets will ever be successful, and they haven't been successful in a long time, and that division's no joke now, Chris. There's a lot of really good football teams in the AFC East now. And, if they're going to have a chance and make their fans happy, what they got to do is just one player is not going to do it. Not Trevor Lawrence, not Dan Marino in his prime. No one player is going to do it. It takes the right mindset. And also another thing that bothered me was why they started to call out their coach and air their dirty laundry. Yes, that was a terrible call
because they had Marcus May had every right to speak up. Every right.
No, but we can compare that, Chris, to the Super Bowl when the Seattle played New England when that last play that what Bevel's called or Carroll called.
No. It's even a little. It's worse. Believe it or not, it's worse than that. It's worse than that. It's infinitely worse than that because he's trying to at least come up with a call that might catch some people off guard and is a little bit different. What Greg Williams did was show off his arrogance and just quit. By sending an all-out blitz, he knew he was making a massive mistake. Nobody's that dumb. Nobody's that dumb, especially a coach who has been around for as long as he has. Nobody's that dumb. And for Marcus May, a guy that says nothing, a guy that's a good teammate, good locker room guy, to speak out and say that, this clown had to go.
Well, you might be right, but one thing I wanted to say, Chris, was like this talk about Russell Wilson. They tried to get him to throw people out of the bus, as ridiculous as that call was. A slat in the middle of the field where the ball can get tipped. They didn't have to do that. They had a lot of options there, but he never would throw anybody. That's because that's the kind of guy he is. But the Jets have to learn first and foremost if they want to be a winner and turn this thing around. It's not one guy who's going to do it. A, B, they've got to work as a team. Like Joe Judge. Joe Judge has respect of the whole team because he's consistent, he's fair, he's tough, but he's not going to throw anybody under the bus. But another thing
in that case, normally I'm with you. Thanks for the call. Normally I'm with you. In that case, no problem whatsoever with Marcus May saying it because he's 100% right. Those guys are the ones out there laying it on the line. And I mean physically laying it on the line. They deserve better than that. We can all sit here and say how much we wanted the Jets to lose. I still wanted the Jets to lose. Seeing them lose that way made me sick. Because it's clearly what he wanted. And that was out. That was an early vacation. Spike in Jersey. Spike, what's going on?
You can't be feeling too good right now, huh?
Well, they just turned the football over, so no.
I'm watching.
Yeah.
I'm watching with you. Yeah, it sucks. I guess the 5 days, I don't know. Look, Greg Williams, if I'm ordering him a pizza, it's got extra pineapple on it. It's a dereliction of duty. However, I just don't understand if they do call it. I know the guy's a rookie. Maybe the more experienced guy like May could have called the playoff, but that's taking a big chance with his career.
No, it was up to Neville Hewitt. Neville Hewitt was the guy that could have changed the call. And
okay, so Hewitt, okay.
Yeah, and he didn't, and he felt sick about it afterward.
Yeah, well, or someone could have, you knock the guy on his ass and you take the penalty or you hold him or something, but that's kind of tough in the moment. It was horrible. It was a horrible game. I wasn't impressed with the quarterback for the Jets again. I've given up on him, but they should have won that game. That's almost impossible. It's 98% chance to win that game. But can I mention something about the Giant game?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, thank you. I saw something yesterday with this coach. I saw how they put out for him. I saw that the guy, my name's a bad at this point in my life. The guy used to be the Dallas head coach's DOC.
Jason Garrett.
Yeah, called a magnificent game. I saw the coming out party for the defensive line, which there was an award called Most Improved Line. They just got the fumble back, maybe Pittsburgh. I don't know. But anyway, I thought the Giants are really going to be tough now. Talk about playing your asses off. And this kid, I told you the other day I talked here. I can't remember the name. They're running back, two little
Wayne
guys.
Gallman. Yeah, listen, Spike. I mean, they're playing at a high level. I appreciate the call. I'll get into them later on because they deserve an awful lot of attention the way they're playing. And I'll tell you, I have an awful lot of faith in what they're doing. And I backed it up today. I'll tell you about that in a little bit. 800-919-3776. Let's do it. Richard, what's going on?
Chris, great call on the Rutgers touchdown. I love that call on the wide receiver making that catch. You really were great calling that touchdown.
Thank you.
I enjoy listening to you. Chris, I got a problem with, and you said something. I'm with you, everything you said about Greg Williams and all. But you said, first of all, he insulted the integrity of the fans who watched the game.
Yeah.
And I watched the game. Now, any fan of the Jets, I don't care whether you want them to get the number one pick or don't. And I'm not even going to say what my position is. But if I invest 3.5 hours watching a game, I'm watching the Jets to win. I'm not thinking of, now, I respect the guy that wants them to lose, but I can't believe you can watch the game. So to me, it's a difference between seeing the Jets win or lose or hoping the Jets win or lose. If you don't watch the game and say you want the Jets to lose so they get the number one pick, that's fine. But I can't see how any fan can watch a game and hope their team loses. I can't understand that. That to me it's moronic. I can't understand that. But that's but I'm not saying I disagree with the fan who doesn't want them to win so they get the number one pick. Understand what I'm saying. But if you invest time watching a game to see your team lose, I can't understand that.
This is the thing, Richard. To me, I get wanting the number one pick, and I want the Jets to lose these games. But that's an insult yesterday. That's a full-on insult
Right.
to everybody.
Yes, to the fans. I
Yep.
watched the game. I'm rooting for Donald, and I'm rooting for every kid on the Jet team because I've been watching them for 58 years. That's why. Chris, do you realize that the Jets and Giants had 4 running backs that yesterday ran for a combined 352 yards? If you asked me about those 4 running backs 2 months ago, I couldn't have named you one of them.
Yeah,
You know? It goes to show you that running backs, they just show up. I mean,
it goes to show you don't need to take one number 2 overall. Thanks for the call, Richard. You don't have to. The problem is, they showed that you can get guys who can go out there and do the job. You can always count on Richard for some obscure stat that really means absolutely nothing. 800-919-3776, 800-919-ESPN. When we return, the start of the winter meetings. That means Buster Olney will join us in just a few moments. What's the latest with the Yankees and LeMahieu? He has got some interesting insight on that. If they would match a deal if somebody gives him 5 years and 100. And also interesting insight on Francisco Lindor and where he ends up. Gonna want to hear this next. Carlin, 98.7 ESPN.
The Michael K. Show.
You're down, Chris. You got to read here?
MLB winter meetings beginning today, and Buster Olney, as always, right on top of them for ESPN. And it's different, there's no doubt. We'll get into that in a little bit. But, Buster, first of all, appreciate the time. And you had a busy Sunday going back and forth a little bit with the Phillies owner after you had a report that they were considering and actively seeking to potentially trade Zach Wheeler away. And he got a little heated about that report after the fact. So what happened?
Yeah, so I filed a report that what had been communicated by the Phillies front office to other teams is that they're willing to listen to offers on Zach Wheeler, who last year, first year of that 5-year, $118 million deal. So I reported that, and John Middleton was very upset about it and called me and said, in effect, that if he was offered Babe Ruth or Ted Williams or Mike Schmidt, he would not trade Zach Wheeler for them. And I mentioned to him that I had heard this directly from people in other front offices. He said they're lying to you. And he also said he didn't authorize anyone to talk about Zach Wheeler. And ultimately, I mean, the biggest takeaway is that you now have the Phillies owner on the record saying Zach Wheeler's not available for trade. However, I can tell you, like literally in the middle of my call with John Middleton, I was getting texts from folks with other teams saying, yeah, your report's right. And then Ken Rosenthal today of The Athletic reported, what I did. He confirmed what I had reported. Other people have confirmed what I reported. There's no question that the Phillies front office communicated to other teams that Zach Wheeler was available for offers. And it really, to me, reveals the fact that, John and the people working on him on the front office, they're not on the same page. Maybe they are now after John has said that he's not available for trade. But keep in mind, during this whole time, they're still in the process of trying to hire someone to head up baseball operations at a time when other teams in the division are being really aggressive and getting better. The Mets being at the top of the list. The Braves are in a good spot. This does not reflect well on the Phillies, the confusion over this information.
And it's one thing to not be on the same page about maybe, Reese Hopkins, but it's another thing to be not on the same page about your frontline starter. That's more than alarming than anything else.
Well, and I think Rosenthal couched it right in his story today. Look, these conversations when teams are facing financial decisions, and the Phillies aren't alone in perhaps having some difficult financial decisions after the 2020 pandemic year. And it would be, I think, in keeping with how front offices do their jobs to just say, look, if you guys have an interesting idea on Zach Wheeler, bring us, an offer, and then maybe we'll talk about that, and maybe if you did trade a Zach Wheeler for prospects or for pitching, maybe use that financial flexibility to re-sign JT Realmuto. So there are definitely a lot of scenarios through which it makes sense for them to listen. But now John Middleton is on the record saying Zach Wheeler's not available for trade.
Buster Olney, of course, ESPN with us. All right, last time we spoke, we were talking about the high-level free agents. And the thought was that maybe the big numbers were not even going to be there for the top-end guys. What's your read on the market right now for those top 3 or 4 free agents?
Yeah, I think they'll do fine. And really, we're talking about JT Realmuto. We're talking about George Springer. We're talking about Trevor Bauer. And we'll extend it to a 4th in DJ LeMahieu. They're going to be fine. They're never going to lack for food. but I do think that, where they sit compared to their brethren in the middle class is very different. I think the guys below that are going to get hammered, and they're going to be a lot of 1- and 2-year deals. Now, when it comes to, Springer, I think the question's going to be in the negotiations, is there going to be a 5th or 6th year in the offer that's forthcoming from, say, a team like the Mets or the Blue Jays? Is DJ LeMahieu going to wind up getting a 5th year? Is Trevor Bauer going to be willing to take a multi-year deal? What's so interesting to me, Chris, is since I talked to you last, I talk to agents and say, okay, who's being aggressive out there? And the list is short. And it constantly comes back to the same 2 teams. The Mets are aggressive and the Blue Jays are aggressive. And besides that, it doesn't seem like there are a lot of opportunities. I think, we talked about the prime free agents. I think we also have to throw Francisco Lindor into the mix, the Indian shortstop. who's almost certainly going to be traded before the start of the 2021 season.
You know, it's strange to me for some of those guys who are going to be in that position, who are thinking about 1 and 2 year deals. And listen, it may not be their choice, but you're a year out from the CBA and things could drastically change. If you're the guy that's thinking, I'll go out there and I'll have a prove-it year, that may not even make a difference. Am I reading that wrong?
I think you're reading it right. It depends on the level of dysfunction over the CBA. And Lindor is a great example of this, where if Lindor's traded, based on what we saw with Mookie Betts last winter, it probably would make sense for Lindor to make his best deal. Let's say he traded the Mets just for argument's sake, and they offer him $250 million. If I were his agent, I'd say, you better take that, because we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
We go into next summer. Let's say the negotiations over the 2021 season are ugly, which is, I think, a reasonable assumption based on what we saw last year. And then you have the CBA talks, and if the two sides can't get together, the ugliness may drag well into 2022. So I think that absolutely is affecting a lot of the offers to these free agents. The other thing, too, is just the sheer volume. You and I talked last time about how, after those, 54, 55 non-tenders last week, there's a huge number of players who are available to sign, and supply and demand works against a lot of these guys.
Buster Olney with us, of course, of ESPN, right in the middle of the winter meetings. Buster, the Yankees, with where we stand now with Brian Cashman and Hank Steinbrenner, and look, we know this is not the same as it was when it was George, but it kind of looks like they're a team that at this point can't afford to wash away the mistakes, the expensive mistakes like they used to be, and that is really where they're getting caught the most, considering the amount of money that's out there on some guys that they haven't gotten the return on.
Yeah, 3 years ago, it was interesting when, guys like Aaron Judge were young. It really did seem like the Yankees were set up well going forward. And I personally thought when they traded for Giancarlo Stanton, hey, great job. You're getting the MVP of the National League at the right time in his prime of his career. Well, all of a sudden, with Stanton being hurt a lot, and him making a big salary, and now you're saying Garrett Cole, they're boxed in pretty well. If, in fact, they're not willing to spend a lot of money, and I think a lot of, as we talked about, a lot of teams are not willing to spend a lot of money going into 2021 because of the uncertainty when fans are going to be in the stands. The perception of other teams is that the Yankees are willing to spend on DJ LeMahieu, and beyond that, they may be saving their powder for other things that develop during the wintertime. In other words, if the prices drop on all these massive free agents, maybe they dive into that. Maybe they make a trade for someone like a Lance Lynn of the Rangers who's available. Maybe at some point, as the Indians' conversations about Lindor pop up, maybe that's the guy they're going for. But there is definitely a perception among the agents and other teams that the Yankees are, besides LeMahieu, are not necessarily being hyper-aggressive.
If somebody offers LeMahieu 5 and 100, it seems that no matter what offer he gets, he's going to be willing to go back to the Yankees. Would they match that?
And I'm just playing a guessing game, and my guess would be no. I get the feeling that, that they have set a price. It reminds me a little bit of the Robinson-Cano negotiations. It feels like the Yankees have set a price on LeMahieu. And only Hal Steinbrenner, if in fact that's what they're doing, would be able to push that forward. The thing that might work for them is that the team that seems to be most aggressive in going against them for LeMahieu are the Blue Jays. He fits them in so many ways. They're looking for a veteran presence, somebody can move around the diamond, in the middle of all those young players. And we don't even know if the Blue Jays are going to be able to play home games next year because, they were essentially locked out of Canada last year. And you do wonder how that would affect someone like LeMahieu. And I've told you this story before, who shows up in the clubhouse every day. And the first thing he does when he sits down, as Zach Britton told me, is to pull on the Yankees cap. That's what's important to him. DJ may have to make a choice between signing with the Yankees and possibly passing on more money from Toronto or some other team.
Buster Olney with us. Okay, Lindor, you mentioned him. Where are the Indians going to be here? Are they going to be in a position in a few weeks where the price for what they're asking is going to have to drop considerably?
I don't know if they're going to be able to get what they probably anticipated at the outset of this, because it just doesn't necessarily feel like that there are a lot of teams involved. Look, I think that there's an anticipation that after the Mets get their front office situation settled, that they're going to be one of the bidders. I think the Blue Jays are. Keep in mind that Ross Atkins, their general manager, Mark Shapiro, the club president, they were in Cleveland when they drafted Lindor in 2011, so they know him well. But one of the factors I think that might chase off some of the potential teams that might be interested and be willing to bid on him, the fact that next fall there's so many free agent shortstops. So if you don't like the Indians' asking price, you can say to yourself, well, next fall I can take a run at Trevor Story or Corey Seager or Javier Baez or Carlos Correa. I think that's going to hurt the Indians' leverage. But the perception that I've heard is that the Indians have kind of made up their mind. Yep, okay, now's the time. It's time for us to move past Lindor, who's been in this. It seems like twice a year or every year for the last 3 years, been in this limbo of whether or not he's going to be traded.
It is bizarre that his name, the quality of player that he is, keeps coming up. Meanwhile, at the same time, you have the Mets, who could possibly be a destination for him. Buster, what is actually realistic? Separate fact from fiction here on Steve Cohen and where they may actually spend, the amount they may actually spend versus what fans might expect them to spend.
I think they're going to be aggressive, and that's based on the conversation with the agents. I'm just about ready to bet the family farm in Vermont that they're going to wind up with Springer. It just feels like such a natural fit. And he, of course, is one of the prime guys. He could play center field for at least a year. He'd help to balance out their lineup. He might be in the $125 to $150 million range. I have heard that Bauer is potentially a priority. I personally think Lindor is a great match for them. Real Muto, we talked about during the summertime, but James McCann, the fact that they were pushing those talks last week, I don't think that was a surprise. I think that some of the Mets conversations internally have been, you know what, why don't we take the less expensive catcher and then spend the money elsewhere, possibly on Springer, possibly on Bauer, maybe in taking on Lindor. And I will tell you that, a lot of times teams in the last 20 years have been leery of taking on a guy who's going in his free agent year the way Lindor is. But agents are saying now that the best leverage for potential free agents is not to actually hit the open market, but the year before, the winter before they become a free agent, like Mookie Betts got to before he reached that huge deal that he made last summer with the Dodgers.
Buster, how will it play out here with the Mets as far as the power structure? Sandy said he's closer to the head of the table now. They're hiring a GM as opposed to the president of baseball ops. But is it going to be Sandy making the ultimate call, or is it going to be whoever they hire at GM?
Yeah, Sandy's going to be the one who makes the ultimate call. It seems like that they're willing to take on, I think as they made clear, they'll still be looking for someone to head up baseball operations. And Sandy, with all of his experience, I think will take, ultimately have to be the guy who signs off on it to take the recommendation to Steve Cohen.
Where do we stand here with the universal DH situation? Because that's going to affect an awful lot of potential guys looking for work.
Look, if you need an embodiment, an example of the absolute dysfunction between Major League Baseball and the Players Association, which I think is its worst since I started covering baseball back in 1989, it would be with the universal DH. Everybody assumes that not only is this part of baseball's future after the next CBA, but that it's going to be in baseball in 2021. But last week, the Major League Baseball sent a note to all National League teams basically saying plan on no DH for 2021 because they, I'm sure, in their offices want to keep that as a leverage point in negotiations. The Players Association people that I talked with, their feeling is, look, if we know it's inevitable, why give up anything for it? So the two sides are in their bunker on this issue that everybody knows probably is going to be resolved with DH for 2021. Meanwhile, if you're Kyle Schwarber, if you are Nelson Cruz, if you're Marcell Ozuna, your free agency is being directly impacted by the fact that no National League team can sit here and plan on a DH. It's insane. You would think that the two sides would be able to break off that issue, go back and forth, do some horse trading, get it on the board so that teams can plan and so that players can be evaluated properly. But it seems like this is going to be one of those things that's going to drag out maybe into late January, early February as we get closer to what the theoretical start of spring training.
And frankly, it's one of the things that scares the hell out of you for next year. That this is really going to get, as you alluded to earlier, just so much more ugly than just based on what we've seen over the last year.
100%. Look, the negotiations, and I think you'd agree with me, in May and June kind of made you sick to your stomach.
Oh, yeah.
Given the context that was going on. And here's the thing. The context is going to be even worse for these negotiations coming up this wintertime because we're going to have these 300 unsigned players. So you're going to have a bunch of veteran players being asked to make some sort of concessions, and I don't know what those are going to be yet, by Major League Baseball. Does anyone think those guys are going to be in the mood for that?
I don't think so. Last one. Because it's a virtual winter meetings, is it going to be a lot quieter than they usually are?
Yes. It's going to be a lot quieter because, and this is the word of the week, the buzzword of the week in baseball seems to be clarity. Everyone is looking for clarity, and the fact is that it's related to a vaccine for coronavirus or how quickly that can be distributed. A lot of times I'll send out information on, vaccine, coronavirus. If you'll have followers, they'll go, I'm here for baseball, not for, that news. And I'm like, that is baseball.
Yeah.
Because the front offices, in determining what their budgets are going to be, they're waiting to see how quickly they can get fans back in the stands before they decide how much money to spend on players.
Buster, I never realized, and of course I should have, I never even think of it, that Buster's a nickname. I'm looking up some stuff on the computer today. I didn't realize it was Robert Stanberry Olney III. Where'd you get Buster from?
Yeah. Well, 2 days before I was born, my great-grandfather passed away, and he could never remember the name of little kids, and he called them all Buster. So the day I was born, my mom was feeling sad about Captain Bassett, and she was feeling happy about me, and so she started calling me Buster, and I'd never been called anything different other than that first embarrassing day at school when they call the roll, and all that my friends snicker when they call out Rob Olney or Robert Olney or whatever the teacher would say.
Listen, appreciate it during a busy week, Buster. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, Chris.
Look at their situation right now with the Mets, with the Yankees, and in the middle of all of this in winter meetings, and you're expecting things to happen that are going to be, all the big stuff you expect to happen, whether it's LeMahieu, whether it's the Mets with George Springer, and you just get the feeling it's going to take a little bit more time. Maybe the Mets get something done sooner rather than later, but this is going to be a slow offseason. And if the Blue Jays really get after it on LeMahieu, and they offer him 5 and 100, and the Yankees don't match, that's tough to take. If you're going to get outbid by the Blue Jays and you're not willing to go an extra year for a guy that could not fit your team any better than DJ LeMahieu, I don't know what to tell you. You shouldn't be in the business. 800-919-3776. Calls till the top. Giants next hour. So much to do. Carlin just getting rolling. And we're already an hour in on 98.7 ESPN.
All right, Chris, you got to read here?
All those extra. Okey doke. Which one is that? Yes, I have it.
All right, so I'll get to the 9 o'clock after this.
Okay. What's up, my people? EBD, who wants a turkey Oreo sandwich? Turkey, yes. Oreos, or turkey, no. Oreos. Listen, if you're not betting on FanDuel Sportsbook this football season, I can't help you. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Their app is so simple to use. They've got great odds on all different betting markets, unique bet types like the same game parlay and exclusive promotions. And if you win, they get you your winnings in as little as 24 hours. Talk about those promotions. They had an odds boost last night. Tyreek Hill to score the first touchdown. You're watching the Chiefs game. You see, he should have scored the first touchdown, but they did not review it. What did FanDuel do? They gave you the bad beat payout. Tremendous job by FanDuel. If you had it, you got paid out, and woohoo, big fella had it. That's right. Right now, FanDuel's letting you place your first bet, risk-free up to $1,000. Just place a bet on any game, and FanDuel will refund you up to $1,000 if you don't win that first bet. No strings attached. No. Place any bet you want. If you win, you keep that cash. If you lose, you get your entire bet up to $1,000 back in site credit. This week, maybe we're checking out the Vikings and the Buccaneers. Yeah. If you've never tried FanDuel Sportsbook, download the FanDuel Sportsbook app to get started. Be sure to sign up with promo code Carlin so they know the big fella sent you. That's FanDuel Sportsbook, promo code Carlin. Must be 21 and older, present in New Jersey or Pennsylvania. First online real money wager only. Site credit. Non-withdrawable, expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.